Alright, everybody, welcome back. We are reading chapters 5 and 6 today. I'm actually recording this on a Friday because I'm going to be gone this weekend, and obviously the weekend I'm going to be on a little weekend getaway. It was the time I was scheduled to post some more chapters, so you guys will be seeing this on Saturday. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the last couple chapters. I've gotten a couple of views on the past two videos, so hopefully this continues getting more popular. But today we are reading some of my favorite chapters in this book, so here we go. Chapter 5, Milk. I wake up after the long rest, blinking a few times to let my eyes adjust to the bright lights. I sit up looking around the room, everything looking to be the exact same as it was. The only thing missing was Adton. I then turn and put my feet on the floor, looking over my shoulder to see the sword still laying against the wall. He left his swords here, which means he is probably getting food. I stand up and walk over to the door, grabbing the cold metal handle and pulling it open. I walk out of the room and begin to look down the hallway. Rays of the sun are shining through the window panes, showing dust particles floating in the air. I walk all the way down the hallway and begin to go down the stairs leading into the lobby. Once I enter the lobby, I then head to the doors leading outside. Opening the doors, I squint as the bright sun shines in my eyes. It's a little cold, but tolerable. The smell of fresh air relieves my lungs. Just then, I hear a familiar voice speak to me. "I take it you slept well," Adton asks, while propped up against the wall next to the door. "Yeah, I actually slept pretty good," I say to him, beginning to walk towards him. "Are you hungry?" Adton asks me, while slightly raising his right eyebrow. "Yes, I haven't eaten much as of recently," I tell him while crossing my arms. "Good. Let's go to the tavern and get something to eat and drink," Adton tells me while beginning to turn and walk away. "Shouldn't we grab our stuff first?" I ask him while beginning to follow him. "We'll get it when we come back," Adton says while leading me to the tavern. We begin walking to the tavern. The kingdom's streets are a very familiar sight. Many salesmen are lined along the sides of the roads selling many different foods and items. The wind kicks up slightly, blowing the loose dust into the air. Adton occasionally looks behind him to see if I'm still following, or perhaps to make sure I'm okay. After a short walk, we eventually arrived at a tavern. We walked to the tavern and went inside. Once inside, we stood and looked around before walking up to the tavern keep. Many different creatures and people are inside laughing and having a good time. On one corner of the tavern, a Felina and an Elven sit across from each other, sharing a few laughs. The Felina girl leans over the table slightly. Her tail waves in the air a little bit as her cat ears perk up. The Felina grabs the Elven's hands and begins to whisper something to the Elven. Just then I feel Adton grab my hand and walk me up to the innkeep. "Welcome, I haven't seen you two before. You must be newcomers," the innkeeper says to us. "What would you like to drink?" The innkeeper has ginger hair and is a human. He smiles at us while he awaits our response. "You have tea?" I ask the innkeeper. "Yes, I do. A bit of an unusual request, but acceptable," he says while then looking at Adton. "Milk," Adton tells him. You You must be joking. You walked into a tavern and asked for milk?" The innkeeper laughs at him. The whole bar goes silent as the crowd listens in. "I don't drink," Adton tells him while folding his arms. "You can't be serious." "This dude," I begin to chuckle. "What? What's wrong with that?" Adton says as the whole tavern begins laughing. "Are you too much of a wuss to try a real man's drink?" someone yells from the crowd. I walk away to go find a table, leaving Adton to get himself out of that situation. I find a table near the back of the tavern, secluded from the rest of the people. I wonder what exactly Adton needs me for. Whatever it is, I hope I can help him, since I couldn't help my brother. A few minutes later, Adton sits in front of me, snapping me out of my thoughts. Adton sets my tea and his milk on the table. "Milk? Seriously?" I ask Adton while grabbing my drink and taking a sip. "You too? Come on, man. Milk is awesome," Adton says while taking a drink. "Didn't you use the last of your money on the room?" I ask him. "No, but I am about out of money. But don't worry. We don't need money for what we are doing next," Adton says while leaning back in his chair. "What exactly am I helping you do? And where are you getting all this money from? I thought you said you didn't have any," I ask Adton while leaning forward. Wait a second. "I need your combat skills for starters, and all the other questions you asked are not important for what we are talking about right now," Adton says while looking me in the eyes. "Is he serious? He needs my combat skills? Why do you think I would be able to help you?" I ask him. You saved me a couple years ago. I saw how good of a fighter you are, and plus you're stronger than me, Aten says while leaning forward. Oh, really? I tell him. Just then Aten puts his arm on the table and opens his hand. Arm wrestle me, he says. He can't be serious. We did not just go through all of this for him to use me for combat. You know what? Fine. He deserves it. I then put my arm on the table and grab his hand. 1, 2, 3. Ah! Aten screams. Immediately after Aten says 3, I pull him forward and flip him over the table, over the top of me, and slam him against the floor. Once Aten hits the ground, his milk spills all over him, drenching his clothes. Ow, Aten says in a painful tone. You dragged me all the way over here to help you fight? I yell at him. Just hear me out next, he tells me in a soft voice. Fine, I say, sitting back down, trying not to lose my temper. Listen, I know you've been through a lot, but more people every day are getting put through things they shouldn't be put through. Someone needs to stand up against the kingdoms and their actions. They have been murdering innocent people, all because they have magic. On top of that, I have reason to believe that there is an army of evil rising. I can't just sit here and do nothing. Not like I did last time, Aten tells me in an aggressive but painful tone while sitting up. Maybe I was overreacting. Aten, I'm sorry. The kingdoms think banning magic will solve problems. No, it will only make things worse. I have seen what happens when people can't defend themselves against the real threat. Once fear turns to hate, that's when bad things happen, Aten says in a serious tone. He has a good point. The kingdoms have been slaughtering many Tians for wielding magic. Enchantments, potions, and anything that could be remotely considered magic was made illegal. Why are you so set on defending people with magic, I ask him. I believe that magic is responsible for many of the atrocities that have plagued our world. However, magic itself isn't evil. While there have been people using it for their own gain, there have also been people using it to protect others. We are going to need as many people fighting together as we can before our enemy makes their move, Aten explains while standing up. Why do you trust me? You barely know me, I ask Aten, folding my arms. Well, you seem like a trustworthy person, but I would like to know more about you, Aten asks while looking into my eyes. I lean back, looking down at my cup while I think about telling Aten my past. I've never had anyone to talk to up to now. I have been alone for most of my life. I don't want many people to know who I am and what I have been through. Then again, I have never had anyone seem to care for me. I then look up at Aten, who is occasionally looking to his right to observe the people around us. I don't like talking about my past, I tell Aten as he looks back at me. If you don't want to share, it's fine. I understand. I have a past as well, Aten says as he looks down at the table. Must have been through a lot, just like I have. When I was 9 years old, my village was attacked. These soldiers just seemingly came out of nowhere. I then start remembering everything that happened. The soldiers breaking into the houses, the flames spreading through the village, the screams of the mothers and children being slaughtered, my brother clinging onto me as I carry him to safety. I remember struggling to breathe through the hot, cinder-filled air. My brother and I survived on our own for 5 years. I let my guard down, and before I knew it, my brother was taken by the same soldiers that attacked my village. I shouldn't have let them take him. They should have taken me, I say, feeling a tear fall down my face. Nix, I'm sorry. Maybe he's still, Aten begins to say, No, he isn't alive. I looked everywhere. They killed him. I killed him, I say, banging my fist against the table. Aten looks away and says nothing. I then take another drink and begin to fidget with the cup. The musty smell of wood and people fill the air. The noise of the tavern then gets noticeable as we stop talking. We are too much alike, I'm afraid. I too can relate to what happened to you. Listen, if there's anything you need, I will help you. If you want my help, that is, Aten says while looking back at me. I'm fine. I just need someone to talk to about this. I then tell him, looking into his blue eyes. Are you ready to head back to our place? Aten then asks. Yeah, though, what are we going to do once we get back? You still have not told me just exactly how we are going to stand up against the kingdoms. I ask him while I stand up getting ready to leave. The kingdoms are all united. I figured I would start with Hyvelon since this kingdom is one of the weaker kingdoms in terms of military strength. And it's closest to where the magic tribes used to live, Aten says, beginning to walk towards the exit. Well, that makes sense, I guess, I tell him, still wanting to know exactly what he's planning. I want to talk with the king of Hyvelon, though I don't want to go alone. There is a good chance that we will be arrested and executed, Aten says as we walk out of the tavern. Looking around into the streets, there are less people than there were. We begin to head back, switching the topic so people wouldn't overhear us on the streets with it being more quiet. The sun is almost in the middle of the sky, making the temperature noticeably hotter. Well, all I know is first I should probably get some new clothing since you spilled milk on me, Atten says while jokingly looking at me. He is so strange. What history does he have with pirates? We then reach the inn and head to our room. Everything is once again exactly as we left it. I did not like the feeling of leaving our stuff here. I walk over to my sword, leaning against the wall, with its cold black blade reflecting the light coming from the lantern in our room. I hear Atten shut the door behind me as he begins to walk over to his swords. I take off the cloth covering the wound on my leg, cutting it up with my knife. Once I cut the cloth off, I stared at the knife that I kept away from my brother since he was too young. I look at the orange and blue swirls and the rocky blade. You're a magic wielder, aren't you? Atten asks me while leaning his swords against the wall. He crosses his arms and leans on the wall next to his swords, and looks at me, awaiting a response. My heart begins to beat faster as I move closer to my sword just in case. I knew he would figure out. He's relaxed, so he doesn't seem like he wants to harm me. He also does want to help people with magic. Might as well just tell him now. I am. My father was a dragon knight, chosen by the Terranovians. Before the kingdoms banished magic, the dragon knights ruled this realm. My father gave the kingdoms independence and left them to rule over themselves. However, my father was killed by a halation. I am the last surviving dragon knight of my family, I tell Atten as I slowly back towards my sword. I thought all the dragon knights were killed as well as all their dragons. I'm glad that you are still alive. However, this does make things more dangerous for us if we do go to visit the king, Atten says in a surprised voice. He has fully proved that he is on my side, which is good. I really did not want to fight him. I then calm down and start walking away from my sword, walking over to where Atten is standing. I don't think I've ever met someone who actually is on my side. Now that you know my secret, I suppose I will just have to trust you. What are you going to say to the king? I don't actually know. Getting into the king's keep is going to be challenging as an ordinary citizen. However, we are not ordinary citizens, Atten says, chuckling as he picks up his swords and sheathes them on his back. If things don't go well, what are we going to do? I ask Atten while walking back over to my sword. I will make sure you will get out okay. Though I do have a plan if I fail, Atten says while walking over to me. No, if you get taken in, I get taken in with you. You have done a lot for me and I won't allow myself to just let you be taken. I appreciate your concern though, I tell him, smiling at him. I really don't feel like I have done a lot for you, Atten says while looking down at the floor. You have had conversations with me. You actually helped me and cared about me. I have been on my own for years. I cannot begin to tell you how much that has done for me, I say, trying to be honest while also hiding my vulnerability with my emotions. I just didn't think you were going to allow me to stick with you. Why did you allow me to tag along? Atten asks while stretching. If it wasn't for the fact that I had met you 2 years ago, and I didn't already know what you were like, I would not have let you tag along. Well, thanks. It was nice having someone to talk to, Atten says while bringing the conversation back to where it should be. Once sundown arrives, do you mind going with me to meet the king? Atten asks with a mischievous smile. Of course, I tell him with a smile. Well, let's get started then, Atten says. Chapter 6. Hail to the king. We checked out of the inn and began walking towards the center of the kingdom. Many people are walking the streets. I occasionally glance at some of the starving and poor people on the sides of the roads. Many kingdoms do not pay the farmers well, despite the fact that the farmers are the most important people in maintaining a kingdom. I look as a woman feeds her newborn a small piece of bread as the child cries for food. I look at Atten, who is not enjoying the sights he is seeing, grabs my hand and led me through the large crowd of people in front of us. Some kingdoms don't like civilians carrying weapons around. Just try and keep your weapons out of sight, Atten says while lightly pushing past a few people. Says the one with swords on his back, I tell him mockingly. We begin moving closer to the king's palace. While en route, I spot something in an alleyway. Once again, I see 2 glowing white dots in a dark alley. Before I could move towards them, they disappeared. What is that? That is the second time I have seen those eyes or whatever they are. Atten, I say, pulling on his milk-stained shirt. What? Atten says, looking at me. I saw something in that alley. I saw 2 white dots that just vanished. This isn't the first time I have seen them either. I saw them in the forest too while we were running to the gate of Hyvelon, I explained to Atten while I looked back into the alley. We better hurry then, Atten says while quickening his pace to the king's palace. After a few minutes of walking, we then arrived at the staircase leading to the king's palace. Looking back, we can see all the beautiful spruce wood houses, with their ornate roof designs and stone walls. This kingdom is more beautiful than I thought it was. Walking to the door, I noticed that there are no people waiting to see the king, and that 4 guards are guarding the door. We approach the guards, and Atten begins to talk to them. I don't like soldiers. I begin to get a little nervous as I avoid eye contact with the guards. Looking at the ground while I remember the events of what happened in my village. Is the king not accepting visitors today? Atten asks the guard while letting go of my hand. No. The king will do visits with the citizens in a week, the guard says in a nice tone. Darn. I needed to see him. I had something urgent to tell him, Atten says to the guards. We'll just have to wait your turn, the other guard says while tightening his grip on his weapon. You guys seem like nice guys. I appreciate what you guys do for this kingdom's people. I really do. But we need to get through that door, Atten says, beginning to unsheath his swords. Hands off your weapon, one of the guards says while the rest unsheath their swords. This isn't good. Atten, what are you doing? Atten, this probably isn't the best way to go about this. I didn't want to fight my way into the palace, I yell. Just then Atten turns and whispers into my ear. Let them capture us. We will then be brought directly to the king to be sentenced. That's when I'll deliver my speech, Atten says while beginning to attack. Atten, you idiot! I yell at him just as the guards take him to the ground. Just then one of the guards grabs me and throws me to the ground and disarms me. I hit the cold, hard concrete ground, knocking the wind out of me as throbbing pain enters my back. Why did I agree to this? I'm such an idiot. Just then the guards began dragging us inside. 2 guards are dragging me by the legs as my back scrapes against the ground. I look over as 2 guards also drag Atten into the palace. After a few minutes, they stop dragging us and then sit us up. Let them take us, he says. Idiot. Looking around the room, we saw many nobles and guards surrounding the walls of the room, and in the center of it all was the king's throne. And who might these 2 morons be? The king says while staring at us. My name is Atten, and I want to talk to you, Atten says in a stern voice. There won't be much talking for you. Since you tried barging in here, you are now criminals, and you will now be treated as such, the king says while looking at everyone in the room. I'm not sure if I can get out of a situation like this. I know Atten is relying on me, but I'm not sure if I can take on this many of the king's guards. The king sits on his throne. Noticeably, he isn't wearing fancy clothing. He is dressed like a commoner. The only criminal here is yourself, King Irvin. You agreed with the other kingdoms when you made magic illegal, and thus led to the slaughter of hundreds of innocent people. I'll admit, agreeing was something I was forced to do. I would have been seen as an enemy if I voted against them, Irvin says while standing up. I went to you first. You are the most reasonable king out of all of them, Atten says while relaxing. I wouldn't listen to him, Irvin, a voice calls out in the crowd. I turn my head in the direction where I heard the voice. A group of people begins moving out of the way as a figure emerges from the crowd. A man with a black cloak and a black skeleton mask with glowing red eyes walks out of the crowd. He walks slowly and menacingly towards where Atten is. I have no history with whoever the girl is, but I know one thing. Whoever is friends with Atten is an enemy to all of Tiana, the cloaked man says in a low, echoey voice. This guy looks dangerous. He must be a king's personal assassin, but from what it sounds like, he isn't Irvin's personal assassin. If it isn't Benicio, the red-eyed assassin, Atten says in a threatening voice. You know him? I ask Atten, leaning closer to him. Sadly, I do, Atten says while looking at Ben. I have had my past experiences with Atten on an assignment I was on. Last I saw, he was working with pirates, Ben says as he looks at the king. Pirates, you say? Well, that's a nasty reputation. Looks like both of you will have to be sent to prison, King Irvin says while looking at Ben. How did a great king like you bend to the will of the other kingdoms, Atten says while standing up. The guards raise their weapons, getting ready to fight. Ben stands still as everyone else in the room begins backing away. I don't want to risk a war with my people and the other kingdoms. I'm sorry, but I have to enforce the will of the land. Criminals are criminals, and magic is magic. I must execute all magic wielders in this kingdom. You and your girlfriend will fight in the Colosseum, the king says while waving his hand to the guards. Not good. The guards then begin to walk over to us. Just before they grab me, I see one of the guards carrying our swords and presenting them to the king. The guards grab me by my arms with a tight grip. I try to put up a slight fight back, but fail as they overwhelm me with their strength. Do you really think making enemies with magic users will end well? I have seen what small armies of sorcerers can do. When they get enough people united against the kingdoms, they will flatten all of them. You say you are doing good for your people, but you're wrong. You are only delaying the coming wars. Tell me, Irvin, what good will come of your people when they are all dead? I tell him in a loud but threatening voice. Just then the guards stop dragging us to the jail. I think I did it. I look over at Adton, who looks at me with a smile and a nod of approval. Irvin looks over at us while seemingly thinking about what he just heard. Take them to the prison. I have heard enough, the king says while walking into the crowd of nobles. I stare down in defeat as the guards carry us off into the jail. No one listens, despite how much I warn them. They won't listen. They take us into the jail cells, which are surprisingly not as bad as I thought they would be. Adton and I stand up as we look around. The cobblestone walls are rough, with a small window that lets sunshine shine into the cell. I walk over to one of the walls and look at the mattress on the ground. Before I can get a closer look at it, I hear a loud bang on the bars of our door. I jump while I look at the other door where I heard the noise. All right, you two. The king's orders have just came in. You are to fight each other in the Colosseum tomorrow. The public is invited to attend, and the winner will be set free, the guard says to us while after hitting the bars. What happens to the loser? I say before Adton can speak. Well, the winner can only win once they kill their opponent, the guard says. After he says this, I realize that this was the first guard that Adton spoke to at the front gate before we got carried in. The guard walks off, leaving Adton and I alone. I look around the cell again to see the cold cobblestone walls and the ray of sunlight shining in the room. Sorry I got us into this mess, Adton says in a sad tone. We can escape together tomorrow once we enter the arena, I tell him, trying to lighten the mood. I was thinking about that, but we should at least put on a believable fight first before we just escape, Adton says with a smile. Do you think they will give us our weapons? I ask Adton while sitting on the cold stone floor. They should. Most of the time, when they catch people with weapons on them, they will send them into the arena with what they had on them, Adton says while leaning against the wall. Can I tell you something? I say to him in a serious tone. Yes, you can tell me anything, Adton says, getting ready to listen. It's been so long since I have had someone to talk to. I haven't trusted anyone for years. Yet here I am with you, in this prison cell. So much has happened these past few days. I guess what I'm getting at is thank you. Thank you for helping me back in the forest and for trusting me when I didn't trust you, I tell him with a sincere tone. You're welcome, Adton says with a sincere smile. Though I do have a question to ask you now, I ask him while crossing my arms. Yeah? Adton says in a curious voice, now moving off the wall and sitting down. I wonder, if he is supporting people with magic, does he have magic too? What is his story? I then sit a little closer to him while staring into his blue eyes. What got you working with pirates? Where is your home? Why are you supporting people with magic when you, for the most part, are a normal person, I ask him. That is a lot of questions at once, Adton says with a confused look. I then look at him as I await a response. He looks off to the side while he thinks of what to say. I then start to remember all the things we have been through the past few days. Helping me out of the forest, retrieving my sword, getting into Hyvalon, and now storming into the king's palace. Oh yeah, and working with pirates. It's crazy how all of this has happened in such a short amount of time. I think I'm still trying to process all that's happened. I will answer a few of those questions, because I think you will get the answer to one of them tomorrow in that arena, Adton says with a confident voice. What? I ask him out of confusion. My home got destroyed, much in the same way yours did. However, I wasn't there when the attack came. I wasn't exactly wanted in my homeland anyways. I was off with pirates. I was with the pirates because I was friends with the captain and wanted to get a weapon for myself. I helped them steal some money from a local group of mercenaries. While we were stealing, I obtained the 2 swords I carry now. However, when they brought me back to my village, all that was left were flames, Adton says while getting a slight angered expression in his face. He is just like me. No wonder I grew so trusting of him. I'm sorry. Flames. Could it be the same people that attacked my village? I asked Adton out of curiosity. I'm not sure who attacked your village, but I know exactly who attacked mine. I have been looking for him. How long ago did you say your village was attacked? Adton asks me while leaning closer to me. I think it was 9 years ago, I responded while trying to recall how long it's been. Has it really been 9 years? I think I just need to accept that my brother is gone, and that I have to carry on my family's legacy. I take a deep breath, smelling wet stone. I then start to remember the day that I first met Adton. He seemed like a funny kid who had gotten into some trouble. He hasn't joked around as much as he did for the brief time I first met him. And a lot can change in 2 years. I was 17 when my village got destroyed. It was hard to see the good in this world during that time. I can only imagine things were way harder for you, since you were way younger than I was when your home got destroyed, Etten says while staring up at the ceiling. For the longest time, I never cared about what happened to me. Once I lost my brother, I didn't care about living anymore. Once I met you, I saw hope. For some reason, I would just keep remembering that day I saved you. It always crossed my mind. Deep down, I wanted to see you again, but I wasn't sure why. At least not until now, I tell Adton while looking at the window of our jail cell. I'm glad I met you, Nix. Though our journey has been weird, chaotic, and short so far, I have liked the time we have spent together, Adton says while looking back at me. I'm glad I met you too. I honestly don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for you, I tell him, while I suddenly get a feeling of peace, a feeling I haven't felt in a long time. So what does this mean for us? Adton asks while slightly blushing. Oh, I see what he's getting at. I've never really been a fan of relationships. It's either you spend your whole life with that person, or you end up leaving them heartbroken. I just can't do it. If you want me to stay with you, that's fine, but I need some more time to think about it, I tell him while looking down at the ground. Whatever you want, I will support. I won't rush you. In the end, it's your decision, Adton says to me while backing off just a little bit, entering a relaxed state. I guess we should get some rest while we wait for tomorrow to come, I tell Adton as I'm ready to lay on the mattress. There's a storm coming. I can hear the thunder, Adton says while looking out the window. I didn't hear anything. I look at Adton with a confused look. Not yet, but tomorrow you will. The way the clouds are forming indicate a storm, Adton says while looking back at me. Well, let's hope we can oh my goodness, bruh. Well, let's hope we can get our fight over with before it rains, I tell Adton while laying back down. The rain isn't what's dangerous, it's the lightning, Adton says with a low giggle as he goes to the other side of the cell and lays down. After he lays down, I then begin to sleep. I wonder how good of a fight Adton will put up. And that's it for today. Man, this is interesting. Okay, so now it's time for the author commentary section. These chapters, I thought they went pretty well, other than that, me forgetting a question mark. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, okay, so chapters 5 and 6, you get a lot more conversation between Nix and Adton that isn't kind of just, questions about, you're starting to kind of see a bit of a relationship develop. Obviously, Adton is a little romantically interested in Nix, but Nix is like, I don't know. You just heard it here. She's not really, ready for that kind of thing. Not really big into relationships. But, it's interesting. So, Adton, being kind of an idiot at times, he definitely, his intentions are good, but Adton is, as you guys are starting to find out, Adton is not the brightest, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, you could say. He's like, yeah, let's just charge through the front gate at the king's palace, because that'll definitely have him listen to us. Yeah, as you see, and that's clearly not gone well for them. So, we also got introduced to another character, Benicio, known as the Red-Eyed Assassin. Interesting. I was going to do the voice for him, but I'll probably do it later, because my voice is kind of just not with it today. But, yeah, so we get Ben, we get King Irvin, who's an interesting king, because I like the detail that I put in, that he's not wearing, fancy clothing that a king would normally wear. Especially in medieval fantasy times, he's not wearing anything special. He's just wearing casual clothing, and kind of despite the situation, he's not totally condescending. Adton and Nix. Obviously he disagrees, and you're kind of hearing that there might be a little bit, just a tad bit of history between Adton and Irvin. There's definitely history between Benicio and Adton, but it's kind of interesting that Adton's like, oh well, you're the most reasonable of the kings. You were the only one that was kind of disagreeing with all the other kingdoms, coming up with this thing. And like Adton mentioned earlier, in terms of the geography, Hyvalon, the kingdom that they are in right now, is actually the closest to where all of the Tians used to stay together in the land. They used to kind of all group up in this area of the land. We're pretty close to it, so that could definitely influence why King Irvin was a little he doesn't agree with what the kingdoms came up with, but like he said, he had to agree if he wanted to avoid a possible war with the other kingdoms. So he was kind of doing what he had to do. So you're kind of getting introduced to Irvin when most people are thinking of some kind of medieval fantasy king, they're probably either going to think it's the greatest king ever, or it's this literal douchebag that's but you're not getting that. You're not really getting either with Irvin. He's kind of interesting, and we're going to see more of his character later. But yeah, I mean, the chapter titled Milk, I love that chapter. So there was a little bit of a meme based off. So all the characters in this book series are based off people that I know in real life. Nyx is based off a good friend of mine, Nicole, an old friend of mine. Her and I had this little bit of a joke because way back when, like many years ago, like 6+ years ago, whenever we were talking about this, we were kind of talking about what would be funny bloopers to have. And I was mentioning how it'd be funny if like I walked into like a bar and my character, so Adton is based off me. So, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed in real life either, but, I'm well-intentioned. Yeah, so, like, walking into, like, a tavern and is like, yep, I want milk. That's what I want. It was just this funny little thing. And, like, the whole chapter, the whole scene with the conversation, Nyx flipping Adton over the table, that was all, like, something her and I talked about back in the day. And actually, Chapter 1 was written by my friend Nicole. So, Nicole actually wrote Chapter 1. Which is probably why you might notice a bit of a writing difference, how suddenly Chapter 1 and then Chapter 2, there was a bit of a difference in how the writing was going about. And honestly, so far I'm noticing this book, the way I wrote it, is a lot different from the second one I've wrote and the third one I've wrote. I think just my writing is improved, but anyways, I'm not trying to get onto, like, the details of that. But what do you guys think of this chapter? I mean, this is a very interesting one. Yeah, so they're stuck in this little prison area. After a terrible plan from Adton that was absolutely a stupid idea to do. And I like how, if some of you, I think the only criticism I've ever received from, like, the only person who's actually read this was the pacing is, like, so much happens so quickly within the first 6 chapters. And yeah, it does kind of suck, but I like how I even had Nyx kind of thinking, oh, it's crazy how all this happened in such a short amount of time. I think I'm still trying to process all that's happening. I kind of wanted this to be like a slight allusion to a fourth wall break. It's not a fourth wall break, but it's kind of funny that I guarantee a lot of people are probably thinking this right now. They're like, okay, so, like, if I was going to sum up chapter 1 through 5, you basically get Nyx talking about how her village is destroyed. Nyx meets Adton, helps him in an alleyway from getting beat up from these other guys. A couple years later, Nyx is in a nasty fight with this person, falls through the house. Adton finds her again, and randomly, Adton's like, oh, I need to help you. And then Nyx is like, I need to go find my sword and restore my family legacy. Why I'm doing this now is because I've accepted that my brother is gone for the most part. I'm done looking for my brother. I'm now going to actually do what my father wanted me to do. So she's like, I guess I'll bring Adton along because he's kind of paying me back. But she was, definitely playing, like, just all the stuff that happens. She takes Adton to her old village that's all destroyed. She gets her sword back. And then she gets in a little bit of a wanting to leave Adton behind, but Adton's just not having it. And then obviously they meet pirates. The pirates get them into the kingdom, and then Adton's like, "All right, we're gonna stay at this tavern, and then we're gonna go get some food. I'm gonna tell you what's happening. You're gonna get angry, flip me over the table, and then we're gonna just go storm just right into the room of the king." Like, just the sheer amount of stuff that's all happened within the first 6 chapters is absolutely crazy. But don't worry, this is about to get interesting. This is about to start getting really interesting, because in 2 weeks we are probably going to be covering another really good, like, chapter 7 and 8 are really good chapters. I love chapter 7 and 8. I kind of feel bad for leaving you guys on a cliffhanger here, but yeah. So again, let me know. Please leave comments for the people watching this far, because I haven't had any comments on the last 2 videos, and I really want to know what people think, because I'm still actively, editing this and, trying to get feedback. I'm trying to get feedback before I try to actually publish this, because I just want to see what people are thinking, what criticisms they have, anything I need to fix. For the most part, I've planned this series out, like, all 9 books. Yeah, here's the thing. I'm planning 9 books. But if this isn't popular enough, I'll probably just stop at 3, but, we'll see. But yeah, just let me know. Again, who do you like more so far? Do you like Adton more? He's kind of more of he doesn't take anything seriously. He's a bit of an idiot, but I mean, he's a good dude. He's trying to do, great things. He's a good guy. He's a bit of a mean character. Or do you like Nyx? She's kind of a little bit more closed off, a lot more hesitant to share things. She is kind of a little bit on the fact that she doesn't mind not doing the right thing. She's just trying to like continue what her family legacy is. Like that, Nyx is a little bit more of an interesting character. So you're gonna see there's a lot of character development with Nyx in these first couple of books. So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying your week. I look forward to seeing whoever is watching these in 2 weeks' time. So I myself am gonna pack up and get ready for a weekend getaway. There's a bunch of thunderstorms happening in my area as of right now, so hopefully nothing crazy happens. But yeah, see you guys later. I hope you guys are liking this book series. This is like even my like the music or like my other YouTube channel. Like, this is the thing that I care about the most. This is what I've devoted the most time into is my books. So yeah, I've really dragged out this ending. Anyways, adios. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and yeah, later.